Okay, so today we're looking at car loans. We have looked at loans before, so it's not a completely new concept. When we buy a car, where can we buy a car from?
Car shop.
Car sales.
Car dealer. Yep. Where else?
Moe.
The car shop.
Moe gets cheap.
There's the car dealer.
The car shop.
Mechanic.
Mechanic.
That will do me.
Abdul.
Car shop.
What else?
Car show.
Second hand. How would I buy them second hand? Website? Yep.
Carsales.com.
Webjet.
Okay. So that would also count as a private sale. So you might, boys, like you might know someone that's selling their car, so you might just buy it off them. So there's lots of places we can buy a car. How can you pay for a car?
Cash.
Cash.
Check.
Cash. We'll say check is the same as cash.
Loan.
Loan. A loan from the bank.
A trade, like trading.
Trading.
Okay, trading.
Slips.
You can break them.
Who else could you get money from?
Pink slips. Parents.
Parents. Your parents might loan you the money. So there's lots of ways we can pay for our car. What we're going to focus on today is if you had to borrow the money, how you're going to pay it back. Okay, so great if you had the cash to pay it, but we're going to look at what happens if I borrow the money. Now, if your parents or a rich uncle or something gave you the money, they might require you to pay it back without interest. But if you borrow it from anyone who's not a relative, you're going to have to pay interest. So we're going to look at two types of loans today. Shh, Kyle, silent please. The first we're going to look at is a flat rate loan. Now this section here is straight from your formula sheet. Okay, you should all have formula sheets with you. They're the blue pieces of paper I gave you. The simple interest formula is on there, Kyle. We've got I equals PRN. P is the initial amount. So that's how much money, Kyle, that you're going to have to borrow. R is the interest rate. Make sure you put it in as a decimal. Don't put it at 7 if it's 7%. Put 0.07 or 7 on 100. And N is the number of periods, so however long we're going to borrow it for. So let's look at a simple example. So in this example, we have, remember this is on your formula sheet. You don't have to memorize this. Okay? Is everyone ready?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Shh. Kyle. So James borrows 15,800. Bronson.
Sorry, it's just in my face. I just had it.
Okay. So we're going to borrow 15,800 to buy a car. Shh. He's charged a flat rate. Now, flat rate means simple interest. So they might not necessarily use the word simple. Flat is the same thing. It's 6.2% per annum over 5 years, and we're trying to calculate what he's going to have to pay every month to pay back this loan. So, obviously he has to pay the 15,800 back over the 5 years, but he's also got to pay his interest back. So we're going to use our simple interest formula, which is I equals PRN. Starting with the principal, he borrowed $15,800. So we're going to put this in, $15,800. The interest rate is 6.2%. So what would I put next?
0.062.
0.062. Okay, then N, how long did he borrow the money for? How long did he take to pay it back?
5 years. So
5 years.
Over, or do you just do 5?
Just 5. Because this is, the interest rate is per annum, and that's number of years, that's consistent, I don't need to change anything. I grab a calculator, I type it in, and that's going to give me the interest that James has to pay back. Okay, so I got that he had to pay $4,898 in interest. Shh. So what is the total that he has to pay? So James has to pay back the 15,800 and he has to pay back this. So we're just going to add them together. 20,698. Thank you.
Who needs a calculator?
You don't need a calculator, you got a brain. Okay, so that's what total he has to pay. And we know in the question it says he's going to pay back monthly. What do I need to know to work out what he pays each month?
Divide by 12 or divide by 5 times 12?
Yeah, we need to know how many months there are. So it's not just 12 in 5 years, it's 5 times 12. So how many months are there in 5 years? There's 60 months. So I need to divide this by 60. So his monthly repayment is 20,698 divided into 60 equal payments, which works out to be $344.97. So he would need to pay that every month, so at the end of 5 years the loan was paid off. Okay, so we've done simple interest questions before. It's very similar to the questions we looked at earlier in the year. Okay, next concept that is a bit trickier is called a reducing balance loan. Now, a reducing balance loan is the way that most banks work. So if you borrow money from a bank rather than your uncle or something, they're going to ask you to pay a reducing balance loan. So every month they're going to charge you interest depending on how much you still owe them. So each month you're going to have to pay a little bit less interest because you owe them a little bit less money. So you may find that the interest rates on a reducing balance loan are higher, but you will end up paying less interest each month as you go. Okay, it's the same when we do housing loans later. It will follow the same principle of calculating interest only on what you owe rather than what you borrowed originally. Now, these are a lot more complicated, and we're not just going to use a nice little simple formula to give us the answer. We actually have to look at what's happening month after month after month. In real life, we'd set these up on an Excel grid and just calculate down the page. We're going to look at an example. We're just going to look at the first 6 months, because obviously drawing up all 60 months for a 5-year loan would take a very long time. We're just going to look at the first 6 months. So in this example, we have Jenny. This time her car cost $23,000. Her interest rate's a little bit higher. It's 9.8% per annum. And she's paying $550 a month to pay it off. We're just going to look at what happens in the first 6 months to find out how much interest she's paid in that first 6 months and how much she still owes by the end of the 6 months. As we're doing it monthly, we need to do something to this before we start, okay? Because that is for a year. So we're going to have to work out our monthly interest rate. So we're going to divide that by 12. 9.8 divided by 12 gives us some horrible decimal. 0.816 repeater. Why is that not working? That's just weird. Okay, weird. I know why it's not writing. Bizarre. Alright, so let's look at what we're going to do to calculate things. To start off in the first month, what is the principal? How much does she owe in the first month? $23,000. Hasn't paid anything off yet. Now we're going to calculate the interest in that first month. For each month, we still use the simple interest formula. And in fact, it's going to be quite easy because our end is always going to be 1. So we're going to use 1 month. So using our simple interest formula, it's going to be the principal, which is $23,000, times by the interest rate, which is this, but divided by 100. So it's 0.00816. And then we times by n. What's n going to be? It's only for 1 month, so it's just times by 1. If I put that in my calculator, okay, so the reason this had to the 0, 0, because this is not a percent. This is a percentage currently. And we need to make it into a decimal, so that's why I've divided by 100. That's where these extra zeros have come from. And then timesing by 1 because there's only 1 month that we're looking at. Does that make sense? So I got that in the first month, the interest that's charged was $187.83. Okay, so once they charge that interest, you owe the bank more than $23,000. So if you add your $23,000 on, you owe the bank $23,187.83. But at the end of the month, you pay back your $550, which you're paying every month. So at the end of the first month, you owe $22,637.83. Does everyone understand where each of those numbers came from? So here, that's the principal. That's the interest, which I calculated using I equals PRN. The amount owing now is principal plus interest. The amount that I owe after making my repayment is this minus the $550 that I'm paying back every month. So at the end of the first month, I no longer owe $23,000. I owe $22,637.83. All right, second month. My principal in the second month is whatever I owed at the end of the first month. So my principal here is now $22,637.83. I've got to work out the interest using I equals PRN again, but this time I'm using $22,637.83 times this same interest rate, 0.00816, times 1. It doesn't quite fit there.
Your banks are ripping you off.
Yeah.
That's a fair
So I calculate that this month, my interest, as we know, my interest will be a little bit smaller. So it's $184.72. Does everyone get the same calculation? Now I'm going to add those together. And what do we get? 22,000. 822.55. Take off your repayment of $550. And you get 22,272. Okay. That's all we've got time for today. You're going to have to practice a couple of those ready for next lesson.
Thanks.